Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you wonderful people doing out there? It has it feels like it has been a long time since we've done a check-in. We all got busy, a lot of travel going on for me, going around just making sure everything's okay, checking on these organizations, checking up on our people. So, wanted to make sure we get back to it. We start doing our check-ins again. I want to see how you guys are doing. How has it been? February is coming to an end this week. Woo! This year is already going quick. We're about to enter our third month. This is going to be the end of a quarter for a lot of us. So, whether your fiscal year, this is, going into the end of the second quarter. If you're a calendar year, obviously this is going into the end of the first quarter. So, how has it been? How are those goals coming along? How are those milestones coming along? How are you hitting those objectives? So, how have you been? How are you taking it? And have you finally gotten to that stride and gotten things going well? Because that's where we really want to be at. We want to by now we should be in that stride. Things should be going smoothly. It should be, what they call that smooth sailing, right? Things are just kind of getting after it, and we got that flow going on. So, I want to just make sure everything's going well in there. In today's post, we kind of talked about toxic leadership, toxic environments, and how when you work for a toxic environment and you have untrained or uneducated leaders, you start running into this issue where they're creating a bad culture. And what does that do? That increases your turnover. That people are going to be unsatisfied with what they're doing. People are going to be, really upset. They're not going to feel like what they're doing matters or is contributing to the success of the organization. And so, odds are they're going to quit, and you're going to see droves of turnover happen. And a lot of this can be mitigated and reduced by just properly training your leaders, having them understand what it means to truly lead people, equipping them with the necessary tools that they can lead and make their team succeed. Right. So it's not just because you have one person going there and they're just a bad leader. There's a bunch of contributing factors to this. And most times than not, the individual themselves is not bad. They're not themselves toxic. It's because they were never really trained, and they're just sort of shadowing what they know and what they've seen. So you want to make sure you're equipping your team and your leaders, your managers, with the skills and the mindset necessary to effectively and efficiently run your organization and lead people. Right now, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of bad leaders out there too. These are people who are true predators. They're going to truly take advantage of people. They're not going to treat them like they should be treating them. They're not going to value them. They're just going to try to work them to death. And yes, they exist out there. They are out there. And they definitely contribute to a high turnover. There was an organization I was working with, and the upper leadership kept boasting about how this one particular individual was one of their most productive leaders, and kind of going through it. And I started digging into the weeds and said, hey, he this individual may be a very productive leader, but he's costing you more money than he's actually making you. And when we broke down the numbers and we started talking that turnover rate and the loss of information, the loss of time, loss of productivity, when other people are having to pick up other people's work for the slow process of hiring and onboarding new people, and you count the onboarding and training processes, it was almost costing them double what it was for them to produce. So for essentially for every $100,000 he was making them, he was pretty much costing them $200,000 in that turnover. So, once you start breaking down the numbers, you're like, oh yeah, he's hitting all these milestones and his team is crushing these things. But when you start looking at the math and everything else, he's actually costing you a lot of money, and that's dangerous to an organization, right? So you really, if you're a bigger organization, you're a larger organization, and you have many different departments, one of those things you need to look at is turnover in those departments, right? And how is a manager or a leader efficiently tackling that problem? Because turnover is going to happen, but when it's very systemic and you could really predict, like, hey, by this time these people are going to be gone, and you could see it like clockwork, you really have to dig into those systems and that training and what these people are doing. So, just kind of pay attention to those things and look at it in your own organization. And it's not a lost cause. There's a lot of talent that comes in, and you could actually turn it around from the bottom up, and you could start putting those policies in place, and you could start showing that example and getting other people trained up. Your peers are great at teaching other peers things and creating um, that unique team dynamic where they're all supporting and working together. So definitely don't feel helpless just because you were not in the manager or leadership position. You could definitely still affect change. But so I want to hear from you guys. How's it going? Um, is your team getting along, going well? Are you guys a tight knit team? Are you still struggling with a few things? And where can I help you out? I'd love to help you out when I can and where I can, and just make sure we're all getting after it and achieving those goals and growing and creating that success. All right, guys, as always here if you need me. Don't hesitate and stay good.